down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. I have had over the last couple of days a bad case of PTSD, and no, I'm not saying that to be glib or to downplay, actual PTSD, folks, but I'm just telling you, I have pretty tired of stupid Democrats. Something happened, in especially to the X algorithms. I have no idea what happened, but about a week ago, all of a sudden, my posts were being kicked back at me saying that they failed to deliver even though they would show up. It would take me forever sometimes to type things. And then all of my feeds, like, for an example, all of the people that I was following and would usually see within my feed. So, people like Dan Bongino, and some of the other, Ben Shapiro, things like that. And they aren't coming through anymore. And what I ended up with was just a slew of leftist lunatic. I mean, I don't even. They're all kind of like all together in the same package. But anyway, I ended up with a whole bunch of leftist posts, and of course, me being me, I can't leave that stuff alone, and so I started posting. Now, the one thing that happened. One thing that happened that I saw a multitude of is these morons running around saying, I'm 24 years old and I'm voting for Biden. Or, I'm 37 years old and I'm voting for Biden and Kamala Harris in 2024. Or, I'm 67 and I'm behind Biden and Kamala Harris for 2024. I don't know where these people are getting it, but boy, I couldn't let it go, especially the ones that were young. I went ahead and posted, which is factually correct, that scientifically speaking, a person does not grow their frontal lobe or complete growing their frontal lobe. And the frontal lobe is where the logic and reason centers of the brain exist. And so young people, and this is part of the reason, I mean, I've talked about it before on this program, but this is part of the reason why teens have such a difficult time with understanding reason and logic. And they also, as a part of that, that's also like the fear center of the brain. So they generally tend to not have the same kinds of fears that some older folks have that have lived through some other things first. But anyway, I was telling that, or I would post on there, and apparently they it irritated the left. I don't know why, but basically I kept posting that the frontal lobe doesn't develop until average age of 25, and that's the reason why you're voting for Biden. And the logic and reason centers and so on and so forth. And that took off. Oh my gosh. I had so many people that were responding to that. Thumbs up. All these other things. It was amazing. My engagement rate is skyrocketing. And it's not like I really did that much of anything, but they went ahead and, people started engaging. And then the other one that seems to be extremely popular, because apparently over the weekend, they had Kyle Rittenhouse apparently announced his book, but then for some reason, I guess his lawyer somewhere in the mix said that he doesn't have any money left. And that, of course, set the left ablaze, because the first thing that they do is they immediately start jumping on him, serves him right, he's a murderer, blah, 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 even though the facts of the case clearly show that it's, self-defense, and he was protecting himself, and, it's so on and so forth. And the legal process actually worked the way it's supposed to. But of course, that doesn't satisfy these morons. And so they're like jumping all over the place and everything else. And so, yeah, it's just, it's just been I would consider it a fantastic Thanksgiving. But those are the two that, the two major ones that happened. And then, of course, the standard run-of-the-mill people talking about how great Biden is and so on and so forth. And I have a couple of things, because we had a peace deal or a ceasefire deal that has been negotiated, claimed by Biden, but has been negotiated between Israel and Hamas, which has resulted in the release of some hostages. And I've got some of that tonight. I also have some things with regards to, because the other big thing, of course, was on Thanksgiving, Biden and the White House had to keep talking about how prices and costs are down, and this is like the lowest that Thanksgiving they've had since 2000, which, again, I brought up the point since 2000. I don't know what these people are sitting here thinking. 2020. I was wrong, 2020. Since 2020, and I'm like, yeah, that's when you came into office, was right after 2020's election. So you haven't really done anything. And of course that lit off the left too. So, but I have a sneaking suspicion I understand why they're so upset right now, why they're so, why their freaking, hackles are up and everything else. Because of, and I'll explain why when I get to it. It's going to be later on in the program, but I've got that coming too. All right. So first things first, tonight I am drinking my literally last. There's nothing left in the bottle. Buffalo Trace, straight Kentucky bourbon whiskey, or Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. I kind of flopped that. And it is in my, just to piss the left off glass, Lucky Shot USA, We the People, with the flag right there. You can kind of see the We the People right there on it. And, of course, I'm drinking it straight with my Whiskey Stones in the bottom. Good stuff, good stuff. And if I finish that glass, I do have my other bottle of Jameson Black Barrel if I need it. So I have it here as well. All right, let's move on to tonight's sponsor. The sponsor. I gotta find my mouse. Where is my mouse? There it is. My sponsor. Here we go. All right. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or, if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Check this thing out. It is absolutely fantastic. It is an 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather. The pages inside are tear-resistant, water-resistant. and check out that binding. It is stitched and it goes all the way through the leather on the outside. This is just an incredible piece of manufacturing. But they do have a 100-year warranty against materials in defects and workmanship. I'm told by a bunch of authorities over on Rumble that this has thick, rounded corners. You ought to check. I mean, it's pocket-sized, fits right in the pocket of your coat or your shirt. Grab a bunch or a few or however many you want, and you can take them and stick them into the people's stockings for stocking stuffers on Christmas. I'm telling you, this is a great thing to do. Hand it out. It is buddy tested, buddy approved. It is Billy tested and tasted and Billy approved. And it is also approved and verified that the contents within are accurate toward historical value, because my youngest whiskey warrior has passed his civics badge in Scouts using this as one of his source documents. Go and check out the IOTC, but if you want to just buy the Constitution, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and of course, check out the IOTC, the Institute on the Constitution, as well. I thank them for allowing me to be a affiliate, and I thank them for, of course, everything that they are doing to try and bring back our constitutional republic through their education programs. All right. So let's move on to the fan favorite. Oh, but before I do, I gotta pass out. What am I saying? I gotta pass out. Yeah, there we go. I need to make sure that I let everybody know. I see Tommy and Becky and let me see who else. I saw somebody else over here. Tommy and Becky over on Facebook. I don't think I see Mark there yet. I have seen Redford, Outlaw Dogs, Buddy Weiser, Bonnie, Daybreak, Naraz. Let's see who else. 3 Chevy. I think I saw Bam earlier. She's probably hanging in, of course, Amy Jean Viner too. Yep, there's Bam. And at Mama 5 Kitties over on the Rumble platform. And so you can check out everything. You can check out me on all of my stuff. I'm also streaming to Twitter, but I can't see any of the Twitter folks because they don't really have a chat. So anyway, so there we go. I think I've made the rounds. All right, so let's get on to fan favorite on this day in American history. And of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. Check this out. It is chock full of all kinds of American information in here about our historical founding and all kinds of historical references and things like that I read from every Saturday night. You can also grab these guys, by the way. You can go and pick this up anywhere books are sold. Booksellers will sell this thing. It is fantastic. Maybe get it for a Christmas present too. You can do that and give it to somebody who really would appreciate it. And of course, take care of it. Mine's getting a little beat up because I open it every week, but hey, whatever. That's the way the cookie crumbles. All right, so today is November 25th, and now we ended up having Thanksgiving ahead of the normal date. Normally we end up with it, around the 25th, but we ended up with it a little bit early this year. So tonight we're going to still talk about a rich tradition of Thanksgiving. Our nation has inherited a long, rich tradition of thanking God for his blessings. Now, before I move on, I just want to point out these freaking leftist morons keep saying that we don't have that we are not built on or stem from the Judeo-Christian religion. This just tells you right here that we have a long, rich tradition of thanking God, which would be Judeo-Christian values for his blessings. But anyway, I digress. In 1541, Spanish explorer Francisco Velázquez de Coronado and his men conducted a service of thanksgiving for the abundant food and water they found along the Palo Duro Canyon in the Texas Panhandle. In 1564, French Huguenot colonists settled in the area of Jacksonville, Florida, and sang a psalm of thanksgiving unto God. In 1607, when the Jamestown colonists arrived in Virginia, they immediately erected a wooden cross and gave thanks for their safe passage across the ocean. In 1609, English colonists at Berkeley Hundred in Virginia decreed that the day of their arrival, December 4th, shall be yearly and perpetually kept holy as a day of thanksgiving to Almighty God. In the autumn of 1621, the Pilgrims at Plymouth, Massachusetts, held a feast to celebrate the harvest and thank the Lord for his goodness, a feast we now remember as the first Thanksgiving. Which, by the way, has anybody seen or looked up Rush's episode where he talks about the first Thanksgiving? If you haven't done that yet, you really should. That should become a tradition, to listen to that. In 1777, during the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress designated December 8th of that year a day for solemn thanksgiving and praise for the Patriot Army's victory at Saratoga, the first national day of Thanksgiving. In 1789, President George Washington proclaimed November 26th to be a day of thanksgiving for God's blessings and for the new United States Constitution. It wasn't until 1863, in the midst of the Civil War, that the country got a regular national Thanksgiving Day. Abraham Lincoln proclaimed the last Thursday in November a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent father. Took me a second to pronounce that. Beneficent father. Succeeding presidents followed Lincoln's example. In 1941, Congress passed a law officially declaring the fourth Thursday in November as America's Thanksgiving Day. And, so that is today's On This Day in American History. Passing out a couple of really good ideas for y'all for Christmas. Might want to get that American Patriots Almanac. Sure, my youngest whiskey warrior would love it. Hint, hint, Dad. All right. Sometimes I crack myself up. Okay, so let's get on to the rest of the show. So the big news, of course, that's been running around. Before I get too far, take a look. I've got Christmas decorations up. I've got my tree over here, and I've got my garland up above the fireplace. It is Christmas. It is the Christmas season. Now that Thanksgiving is over, it is the Christmas season. And so, this is great. And then also I have to, before I get started, I do have to say, congratulations to the Hickox family out down in Florida. Hannah had her baby. It was, I think 7 pounds, 20 ounces or something like that, just under 8 pounds. His name is Henry, and just a little boy. And it was a little while. I think she went in to get induced. And she's got it all over her Facebook. I'll have to look. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I may not be able to though, but let me see. Where? See if it's in my feed here. Nope. Yeah, my feed's already updated, so I'm not going to be able to find it right away. But she's got it all over her Facebook page, I'm telling you. So anyway, so congratulations to them. And here we go. Yeah, Bam. Seriously, Bam? she had her makeup all done up. Do you think she wouldn't? Oh my gosh. Do you think she wouldn't? I mean, come on. Seriously? Anyway. Oh my gosh. All right. So, new moms, what are you going to do? Especially new moms that are somewhat celebrities on social media. Let's just say. All right. So, the biggest thing, of course, is the negotiated hostage deal that has apparently come down. Now, immediately, all of the Democrats, and I do mean, well, maybe not all, but most of the Democrats wanted to jump in and, you know, claim victory and all this stuff because they've been harping and harping and harping about a ceasefire. Well, the funny thing about it is that Hamas, once the ceasefire was granted, let's say, and it wasn't just like granted, it was agreed upon, because granted is the wrong word. It was agreed upon. All right. But the geez, this is just horrible. But anyway, it didn't take them long to like try and play around with it. Hamas, according to this article in PJ Media, Hamas is playing games with the hostage release agreement. Just as soon as the agreement was reached for hostages to be released from Gaza in exchange for a temporary ceasefire, Democrats were clamoring to praise the deal and even take credit for it. You know, Joe Biden, of course, jumped on and was like taking credit for it. And you know, not to be completely out there, but the thing about it is that he was there, and supposedly, at least according to some sources inside Israel, he actually was somewhat instrumental in getting this done. So I mean, I'll kind of give him a little bit of credit for that, but I'm not 100% certain that that's really a big credit. But apparently, even like squad member Representative Jamal Bowman, who's the fire alarm guy, and the fire alarm, Bowman appeared to take some credit because he says, "I'm grateful that our continuous calls for a ceasefire and return of the hostages has begun to make a difference." Yeah, okay. Well, Hamas immediately postponed the ceasefire. So they asked for it, but they've been begging for it basically, and then they immediately postponed it until Friday. Which an IDF, Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Kornikus says is indicative of their psychological warfare tactics. So here's what happened. Hamas paused the ceasefire. And Israel said, look, we're going to go up until the point, we're going to keep fighting up until the point that our government tells us that we are in a ceasefire situation, that we no longer want, you know, that we're no longer allowed to be fighting anymore. And what ended up happening was ABC not hearing apparently about the pause or the postponement of the actual timing, immediately jumped on the bandwagon of, despite reaching, and this is their X, this is their Twitter posting, or X posting, despite reaching an agreement with Hamas on a temporary ceasefire in exchange for the release of a dozen hostages, the Israeli military continued bombing the Gaza Strip this morning. Well, no shit. The agreed ceasefire wasn't supposed to take effect until Friday over there. These guys, they're so low IQ, low information. They don't bother checking things out. They don't bother digging deep. Yeah, it's just a horrible thing. And supposedly, so now the peace or the ceasefire agreement is 50 hostages on the Hamas side released for, I think, 150 or so political prisoners, with the with the Palestinian folks. So apparently, they have, and they were going to space that out, by the way, over several days. So apparently they have released 13 Israeli hostages. This is in Breitbart. 13 Israeli hostages, 10 Thai hostages, and 1 Filipino hostage. They've released, and 39 Palestinian convicts who were in Israeli jails were released. Now, the funny thing about it is I'm hearing reports that the 13 Palestinians, the minute that they were released and back in to Palestine, into the Gaza Strip, they started waving Palestine flags immediately. So yeah, it's just, anyway. So they've had 13 Israeli women and children taken hostage, or that were taken hostage, crossed back into Israel after a transition through Egypt via the Red Cross on Friday evening local time. 12 Thai hostages and 1 Filipino hostage have also been freed. Now, Biden has taken some criticism that you'll notice there's no American. There's no American in that list. So he has not gotten or secured release of any Americans that were taken, which we assume are running right around 20-ish of hostages. And so they obviously came out and they got through Egypt and got turned around. But apparently still the count is that they're assuming is over 200 hostages still remain in custody in Gaza. And there apparently was, so here's one of the freed hostages, or a set of the freed hostages, a mother and daughter, Danielle Aloni and her 5-year-old Emilia are among the freed hostages. The rest, for the most part, were older folks, 85 years old, 77, etc. So this one, Yafa Adar, 85 years old, one of the founders of the kibbutz near Oz, was kidnapped originally and held captive for the last 48 days. So we have some of the other ones, just to run through their ages really quick: 77, 77, 85, 79, 72. The previous aforementioned Aloni family at 44 and 6. And then they have 78, 54, and then a 9-year-old also, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, and 34-year-old. So the ages are kind of smattered, but heavily weighted towards some of the older folks, which realistically, any release is actually better than none. But one of the things that is interesting, of course, number one, is the fact there aren't any. If Biden was so effective, there aren't any American hostages in there. And of course, I posted and let pretty much everybody know, because they kept talking, especially Biden kept touting how good he was at diplomacy, which, yeah. But anyway, he ended up touting that he was the one that did all this and so on and so forth, which we know isn't quite entirely true. Hamas has been begging for this for obvious reasons. They can take the ceasefire time and regroup, rearm. They can figure out and fortify some of their positions. They can work and do some of that stuff, because you know as well as I do that as soon as the ceasefire is over, Israel is going to go back to it. Israel can't afford to let Hamas survive anymore. They just can't. They tried it. They tried letting them go up until October 7th. And yeah, it's just not going to happen. This is not going to be, this isn't going to be the good, the good negotiator or anything like that with this. He's trying to, I'll be honest with you, I think part of the reason why he's so excited about this is because Carter had a hostage situation at the tail end of his his first term, and history kind of repeating itself here. We have a hostage situation, and Carter took a beating on the Iran hostage negotiations and everything else for that. And so, yeah, it's just a bit of a problem. Well, there's another player in the mix that could be causing a bit of a problem, but I'll get to that right after this. You know, I've been telling you guys about, whoops, I don't want to do that. I want to go this way. I've been telling you guys about TGRN, True Grit Roots Network, for a while. Let me just tell you about one of our shows that is on Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Central. So right after my program, by about 30 minutes, you can hop over and listen to tgrn.net and listen to Angela Easley's Bayou Blues Lounge. Take a trip down south with the voice of the Bayou, #1 recording artist and producer, CEO of Class A Records, Angela Easley. Tune in for smooth grooves and inspiring conversations. The best blues from around the world with a little langnape. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I got to tell you, I had to look up what that was. I thought it was a dish. It's actually a gift, is what that means. So she is, she has her show, Angela Easley's Bayou Blues Lounge. It airs Wednesday at 10 p.m. Central Time. It goes from 10 p.m. Central to midnight Central. And then also rebroadcasts in an encore presentation, like most of our shows do, over on Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time, which would be 4 p.m. our time. So right before I come on, and on Saturday night. So she just finished up right before I started broadcasting. So it'd be a perfect time. You can get some great blues and wonderful things going on there, and then come and join the Whiskey Musings broadcast. So join us on tgrn.net. It is out of Austin, Texas, and we do appreciate it. And of course, as always, I need to let everybody know that I am part owner in that. It's just some great blues music, great artists, and great on-air personalities bringing you the best of blues. All right. So, let me get... All right. So, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is there's a suggestion that the reason why there were no Americans in the first round, in these first rounds of hostage releases, is because of the fact that Iran was telling Hamas not to let the Americans go. And this is a Netanyahu advisor. His last name is Regev, but he claimed that the reason why 10 of the Thai hostages got released was because the Thai government reached directly out to Tehran and talked to them about getting their people released. And so that and they didn't just kind of suggest, okay? They know that the communication happened. They know that the communication between the Thai government and Tehran happened. They know this. I mean, in that part of the world, believe me, there's not much that Israel misses. But the thing is that the Thai government reached out to Iran to get Hamas to let go. And a lot of people have been falsely claiming, that there is no tie between Hamas and Iran. And especially those who keep telling everybody that Iran didn't finance this. And so, Iran did. I mean, it's not coincidence, people. It really is not coincidence that the 10 billion gets released to Iran, and then all of a sudden we have an attack on Israel from Hamas right behind it. I mean, seriously? Come on. It's this is just too coincidental to sweep under the rug. And this is something that, of course, I've been letting everybody know, that Biden, of course, is, taking credit for all this. Well, he's the one that actually started it. And so, not started the attack, but started the whole thing by dropping the money on Iran. And so everybody was, everybody who is obviously a Biden supporter jumped on me and was like saying, oh, no, that money is still sitting in Qatar. Come on, folks. Seriously? I mean, look at what happens with you. Okay. You go and you know that you're getting a windfall amount of money. Let's say $1,000. So $1,000 that you've had, you know you're going to get it. You just know you are. And the rules on it, regardless of what the rules are, but the rules on it are for paying for humanitarian aid and things like that. Okay, so in other words, for this example, you have to buy grocery food with it. Well, what happens to the money that you were setting aside for grocery food if you know that you have this $1,000 coming in? You immediately take that $1,000 and spend it on something else that you want. Iran clearly stated that they were going to use that money however they saw fit, that they were not going to just let the West tell them what to do with that money. And so seriously, I mean, come on. The left is not listening to the Iranian people. The left is not listening to people in the know who say, don't do it because this is going to cause all kinds of problems. It's going to open up the door. And anyway, they ended up to where, they passed the money on. And then right after that, what happens? Hamas, who admittedly were probably training for this mission, but didn't have the money necessarily to put it in place until Iran gave them the thumbs up and a go. That's pretty much what happened. And so anyway, it's frustrating to me to not correlate this money transfer with the attack on Israel through the third-party proxy of the Iranian terror regime in Iran. Well, apparently Biden has his own theory, and I'll be honest with you, it's probably not that bad of a theory. It likely is the reason why they chose what they chose, because again, timing matters. The Saudis at the time, at October 7th, was prior to the date when the Saudis were going to meet with the Israelis and finish off some aspects of the Abraham Peace Accords. Okay? And yes, Amy, Qatar is an Iranian ally. It's also an ally of Hamas because the Hamas leadership is actually living in 5-star hotels in Qatar right now. They're protecting Hamas in Qatar. But anyway, so this whole thing has been based off of the chance that the Abraham Peace Accords, which were initially started by Trump, were going to carry through, and Saudi Arabia was going to meet with Israel right after the Hamas attack, but it got scuttled. And of course, that didn't come out in the mainstream media that much, but that got scuttled. And so, again, we're all talking about timing and everything here, but Biden actually was right in this. Biden says that Hamas attack was spurred by U.S. diplomacy efforts. He again asserted his belief, he's done this a couple of times, that the driving factor behind the Hamas attack on Israel last month came in response to the diplomacy efforts with Saudi Arabia and Israel to bring peace to the Middle East. And he's not wrong in that sense at all. What he says is, I cannot prove what I'm about to say, Biden said Friday, but I believe one of the reasons why Hamas struck when they did was they knew that I was working very closely with the Saudis and others in the region to bring peace to the region by having recognition of Israel and Israel's right to exist. Now, whether or not here he's like taking control of it. But he's neglecting to say that, of course, Trump and Jared Kushner played a key part in this. But Trump actually negotiated and set up this stage with the idea that Trump was going to be running these negotiations in his second term, of course, but essentially setting up the whole idea for recognition of Israel over in the Middle East. Because let's face it, even though Saudi Arabia and Syria and Jordan and even Egypt don't necessarily outwardly say they don't want Israel to exist, they, at times, when you interview them and you corner them and you ask them the question, they will immediately say, yes, Israel needs to get wiped off the face of the earth, which is, of course, a very bad thing to have happen. Well, in the Biden administration, even though he's touting his, his whole, this is so great kind of thing, his administration and his staff are once again showing how evil that they actually are. And they are showing once again how against America and Americans they actually are. So check this out. I actually saw this on X. I saw this. I posted. I replied on X about this, and this is just disgusting. Realistically, from any American, I don't even care. But it's even worse coming from a high-ranking member in Biden's administration. But this is from the Daily Fetched. Ex-CIA Director Michael Hayden: American Christians no different from Hamas terrorists. Now, he didn't state this directly per se, but here's what he did. Here's what he posted. And if you're not watching on video, if you're only on the audio portion, you have got to head over to Rumble and check this out. But he posted a photo of a white, assumably American Christian woman who is holding up the Holy Bible, the American flag, and a pistol. And, she's got the pistol. She's not, like pointing it at the camera or anything, but she's just holding it up. And then he goes and juxtaposes that by a photo of a Hamas terrorist holding what appears to be, looks like it might be, I'm not sure what platform, what rifle it is, but it's holding some sort of a rifle. I'm assuming semi-automatic or whatever, the Quran, and, standing in front of the Hamas flag and the Hamas, some sort of Hamas thing in the background. Okay. And as a part of that, he put up, what's the difference? Now, I responded, no, I don't think it's an AK-47. It doesn't look like it. 3 Chevy over on Rumble says it's an AK-47. That unless they really change something, it doesn't. It kind of looks almost like the M4 platform, honestly. But anyway, so he puts up, what's the difference? And I responded, one of them is exercising their constitutional rights and liberty, and the other one is going to try and kill you. Now I ended up, I think that original post got taken down. And so I had to put up, one exercises liberty. The other one is looking to kill you or something like that. But anyway, yeah, I know the picture is really small. Let me see if I can actually make it a little bit bigger so we can see it. So, yeah. So here is the photo, and it looks like, that's of the Hamas terrorist, and it looks like a collapsible stock, maybe AR or M4 platform. I think it's kind of hard to see. But anyway, yeah. So what is his purpose? He's an ex-CIA director. He's an American. What is his purpose for freaking doing this? For even saying this crap? This is totally ridiculous. Total out of character. or not out of character, maybe, but I mean, I don't know this guy, but this is bad form, bad optics, bad everything. And a conservative commentator somewhere responded to Hayden's remark by writing, the former CIA director under Obama says there's no difference between a Christian utilizing their Second Amendment rights in America and a Middle Eastern terrorist. Imagine the way this monster abused his power at the CIA, proud to be blocked by this small-minded tyrant with a Napoleon complex. And this is that was from Robbie Starbuck, who was blocked by Michael Hayden after responding in the way that he did. This is just ridiculous. I mean, if you really want to sit here and understand what this administration, this leftist administration is doing, this is a perfect example. And this is how they think. This is how these jackasses, and yes, I just said that, jackasses think. They hate America. They hate the Constitution. They hate the Bible. They hate Christian conservatives. And this is exactly the kind of people that are running this administration. And people on X are sitting here are talking about how, oh, it's so great to have, Joe Biden, who is like this wonderful president and et cetera, et cetera. And you're like I ran across, there was a post from a veterans organization or some person claiming to be a vet. And he kept saying, or he or she, I don't know, it was one of those, not that descriptive kind of accounts. And they were saying, I can't understand how veterans can support Trump because Trump is, like yada, yada, yada. Put whatever bull crap stuff in there you want. And I responded back and said, no, actually, Biden's the one that's tearing down the Constitution, which you swore an oath to. You didn't swear an oath to the president. You swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States to support and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the thing about it is that these morons are sitting here talking about how Biden is not trying to tear down America, and yet he has people like that jackass in his administration. And he's not the only one. I mean, Missouri versus Biden has already gone through. They have proven and shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Biden administration went around the Constitution to try and censor, and actually succeeded in censoring, several people on what they considered to be misinformation. And so, this is the Democrat Party. This is the people who are trying to run this country and turn it into a totalitarian nightmare. That's what this is. That's exactly what this is. And these morons and jackasses are going to allow him to do it because they sit there and, talk about this and say that Biden is just like this great redeemer. He's a redeemer of the economy. The economy's crap. He's a redeemer of all of these other things, and we've got possible World War III coming. It's like, really? I mean, anyway. So, yeah. So anyway, this is just, his whole administration, I guarantee you his whole administration is built of all of these people, and these jackasses. Well, some people are actually starting to catch up to this and starting to realize that that the left and the leftists are literally trying to destroy America, and they're starting to pick up on this. And what they're doing is they're buying guns. They're exercising their Second Amendment rights. According to this piece in the Epoch Times, gun ownership in America hits a record high. Representatives of gun rights organizations blame the Biden administration policies for increased crime that has motivated more people to buy guns. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Is this gun ownership among U.S. citizens is at its highest in more than 2 decades, and I've shared stories on this show, on this broadcast, about all of the record numbers of gun sales or weapon sales throughout the country, like over 1 million a month, I think, for like 52 months straight or something like that. But anyway, it's just hilarious. I don't understand how they're, and they think, and the left thinks that they're going to be able to get these guns. They're crazy. So in Illinois, I don't know if anybody saw this, but in Illinois, they had a, legislation pass, and it actually they tried to, get, it challenged. They went through several challenges, but it finally ended up going into law. And it's a draconian gun measure passed that got passed last year, and after surviving various legal challenges has become law in Illinois. One of the law's requirements is that owners of certain kinds of rifles must register them with the state police, or risk being arrested. Now, the deadline for registering those weapons is January 1st, 2024. Well, this piece says, let's just say there's not a rush to register the firearms. So as of November 21st, okay, just 3,439 owners had registered nearly 6,600 guns that they owned before the firearms became illegal to possess or sell in Illinois. Now, how many firearms are actually affected in the state? Well, according to the piece here, we know that the registered weapons through November 21st represent less than 0.1% of the 2.4 million firearms that are in the state. It's not even hitting 1%. So Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly said during an unrelated event in Springfield, "We'll just see how the process continues to work, and we'll share the data as we continue on a daily basis to do so. I can tell you, at least for me, that I think all of us take our time sometimes when we know the deadline is 2.5 months away, and that we'll find the time eventually to go online, which is what they need to do, and to register as they are required to do." Now, Illinois Governor Pritzker said, "That's true, except there aren't 2.5 months before the deadline for registration. There's a little more than 5 weeks until the deadline." Oh my gosh. Okay, so apparently, according to the Chicago Tribune, this is a part of the PJ Media piece, people who own the guns before January 10th but don't register them with the Illinois State Police by January 1st can be charged with a misdemeanor for the first offense and felonies for subsequent violations. But earlier this year, some law enforcement officials declared they had no intention of going after those who violate the law. After Pritzker signed the gun ban into law, an estimated 90 of the Illinois 102 county sheriffs issued letters stating that they believe the new gun law is a clear violation of the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and that they wouldn't enforce it. So this is Illinois. Miraz asked, stepping away for a few minutes, which state did this? This is Illinois. And it looks like they have 90 constitutional sheriffs. You'll remember the broadcast that I did a while back about the constitutional sheriff. But anyway, this is just nuts. This is just nuts. We're going to get, so the piece, of course, says that's an amazing stand by the sheriffs, many of whom sent an identical letter to state politicians, which states, as the custodian of the jail and chief law enforcement officer of their county, they will not be arresting or housing law-abiding individuals that have been arrested solely with noncompliance with the state's new ban on some military-style weapons and magazines. Many of these sheriffs stood their ground against the unconstitutional COVID restrictions as well. Whether the legal theory they are basing their decision on will stand, a Supreme Court remains to be seen. Now, I'm going to remind you that there actually is already in a precedent. PJ Media apparently didn't dig this out, but there's actually precedent that has the sheriff's office in Arizona, and I can't remember the guy's last name, but his name was Mark. I talked about it on this program, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court when the background check went into effect, and he stood up against it, saying that it was unconstitutional and that he couldn't afford all the additional money and everything else, and the Supreme Court sided with him on that. So there's already precedent set, and there's multiple precedences also set for sheriffs basically saying this is unconstitutional, we're not going to enforce it. So there's already precedent there. So yeah, this is going to be interesting to watch. Once again, here we go. This is really going to be interesting to watch here. As far as this goes for this. Yeah, okay. Did I say an S, Bonnie? Seriously? Did I say an S in Illinois? Did I say Illinois? I don't think so. I said Illinois. I might have caught it. I'm sorry. If I did, whatever. Apparently, I guess I did. I guess I did. I hit it twice. I apologize. I actually have family who are from Illinois. Apparently I did say it. I said yes. I said Illinois. But I had to throw the S in there. Maybe I was speaking parcel tongue. Did you ever think of that? For those of you that don't know, parcel tongue is the Slytherin in the Harry Potter series. It's the Slytherin talking to reptiles language. Anyway. Yeah, no crap, Naraz. I'm surprised Washington hasn't tried it yet, but I guarantee you if it does go into effect there, and work out, they'll be right behind it. Oh, yes. Da bears. Sorry. We're off the tracks. Where's my track? Where's my train? Yeah, we're off the tracks. Anyway, I don't get to use that often. Not anymore. All right. Well, hey, I'm coming up to another break, so let me go ahead and just bring this to your attention. I had the pleasure of having lunch with our very own Amy Jean Viner over on Rumble today. We had eggs, bacon, hash browns, biscuits and gravy, and waffles. Those are all my favorites. I mean, everything she mentioned is my favorite. Okay. So I am just proud and happy, just ecstatic over the fact that I was able to join Amy in breakfast. And speaking about that, you see this wonderful, wonderful shirt that she's wearing, or sweatshirt that she's wearing? Check this out. You can get one yourself. You can get it at the Whiskey Musings Broadcast store. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online and check this out. You can get, it's starting to get cold, folks. You may want to cover up your face and nose. Look at this fantastic double gaiter. And by double, I mean it's got 2 layers of fabric that is sewed together. Check out this thing. This is just absolutely awesome. You can get this at the Whiskey Musings Broadcast store. You can also, check this out. You can get yourself a cap that says, "When I drink, I think Whiskey Musings." Look at this. This is embroidered into the cap. It is incredible. Hey, you can also get, if you really want, you can get the sweatshirt too that Amy has with the logo on it. Check that out. You can get this. and it's a hooded. This one's got the hood on it. This one's a hoodie, so you can get that. And you could also get a variant of a hoodie too in my saying right here. When I drink, I think Whiskey Musings. I got them in both white like this, as well as black as well. There's other colors, like the white sweatshirts have a black lettering on them. This lettering, by the way, is part of the font called Armalite. This is the Armalite font right here. All right? So, you can get that. Get those and more at the store, at the Whiskey Musings logo store. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online, and I have got a fantastic gift just for you for Christmas. If you enter Christmas, that's all caps, Christmas, at checkout, you can get 15% off your entire order. That's correct. You can buy multiple things and get 15% off. My gift to you for Christmas all the way up till Christmas Day, right at the Whiskey Musings online store. That's store.whiskeymusings.online, store.whiskeymusings.online. At checkout, type Christmas, all capital letters, as the promo code, and get 15% off your entire order up until the 25th of December. And you know what? I enjoy seeing these photos, by the way. I love seeing my Whiskey Warriors running around with all of their gear. And even the buttons. I love seeing the buttons going around, too. And you can go and check out, just take the button and take a photo someplace. There was a photo. 3 Chevy went and visited, I guess, down in Florida, some relatives, and he was supposed to bring his button with him. But he still took a picture of one of Trump's golf courses down there, which was cool. It was absolutely cool. But, I've been, that button's been to the Flight 93 Memorial. It's been to the Constitution, to where they house the actual Constitution itself, as well as the Constitution. A copy of this Constitution actually went to the Constitution, courtesy of my youngest Whiskey Warrior. So it's all awesome. I love seeing photos. You can send them to me, by the way. You can send them to fans@whiskeymusings.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at whiskeymusings.online. Or you can even hit me up on all my socials. My socials are right here, and you can hit me up on all of my socials. Send me photos and stuff like that. So, supporting the show and getting 15% off, that is awesome. Anyway, so Joe Biden has spent a lot of time talking about how inflation and the Thanksgiving turkeys and all of this other stuff have been coming down, and we're in a great place economically speaking. And of course, I've been talking to you many times on this program how this excuse me. Cholera. How this is all BS. This is all BS. And the reason why it's BS is because, all of your paychecks are lower. The cost of food and energy is lower. Just all kinds of crap. Well, apparently the shadow presidential campaign for the Democrats, and by that I mean the grease monkey himself, or greasal formula, whatever you want to call him, oil slick back hair dude, Gavin Newsom. He implies that the inflation pains are actually just a conservative lie. A bunch of crap. I've been showing you multiple times. I've been showing you where the numbers are. We are at roughly an average of 18%. 18% in the cost of goods from just 3 years, 2020 to 2023. And yes, Joe Biden was not president in 2020. That's why I started at 2020. But we're running at like 17, 18%, so on and so forth. Well, this jackass thinks apparently that it's a conservative lie. Well, I hate to say it there, buddy, bucko, but yeah, you're wrong again. Here's the Epoch Times saying how Bidenomics has given us the most expensive Thanksgiving ever. So here, yes, okay. So their buzzwords that they use, are that it's lower than last year. Okay, you're right. But as I keep pointing out on X, anytime somebody says, hey, inflation is down, is it lower than when Biden took office? Of course, the answer to that is no. So what the hell are they celebrating for? And I keep telling them, this is not a victory lap for you people. You don't seem to get it. You're just not getting it. Well, apparently, the reality is starting to hit, and yeah, we're back to, again, trying to prove that these people are completely stupid. And, we again, from like 2021, 2022, we have the interest rates have gone up. The inflation rate has come down from its 40-year high, but that's still going up. It is still, even though we're at 3% this year, that's 3% on top of the 9% from the year before, on top of the 3% from the year before that. So this is where the 18% comes in. And so it's actually, I think it went 396 or something like that. But anyway, or 639, I don't know, or whatever the number is, it ended up coming out to 18% over those 3 years. And so, they sit here and they talk about, oh, this stuff is all coming, oh, it's down, inflation is down, it's only at 3%. No, it's only at 3% based off of last year's number. It's 3% higher than last year's number. They don't do the accumulation between all 3 years. Now, I did the calculation. I showed it to you on this show. And the cumulated number for 4 years of Trump, from the time he entered office until the time he left, it was just under 8%. So that's roughly an increase of about 2% per year if you were to break it out equally. Here, we're at 18% in 3 years. So we're looking at roughly 9% inflation. Or no, sorry. 18, so that'd be 6% inflation roughly. Sorry, I had to do the math in my head and it was really, really tough. Roughly 6% inflation for the entire 3 years that Biden has been in office. That's not good, people. That is not good. And, Newsmax had an article that also talked about this. And unfortunately, they've got it behind a freaking paywall, so I can't get to it. But yeah, it's, again, granted, it's not, when they talk about inflation coming down, it doesn't mean that we're not paying more. It just means we're not paying more quite as quickly. We're still paying more. In fact, from, I think it was 1960, the value of $1 in 1960 till today in 2023, it was roughly 3,000 something percent. From 1960, the value of $1 in 1960 to the value of $1 in 2023 has increased, or decreased, I should say, roughly that percentage. So anyway, welcome, Mark. Good. So anyway, yeah, it's just horrible. And by the way, David DeWolf mentions this. How many California big tech CEOs met with Xi? I don't know how many, but I can tell you this much. A lot of them did, and a lot of them were kissing his butt. They were kissing Xi's butt, or Xi's butt, whatever. Anyway, it was horrible. It was bad. That whole freaking thing was just, yeah, that whole thing in California was just horrible. But anyway, so the thing about it is that a lot of people really, really, truly, that a lot of the leftists in particular, and this is why I'm tired of pretty tired of stupid Democrats, is that they don't seem to understand that inflation is driven by one thing and one thing only right now. And that is America's unsustainable government debt. Now, I ran across, and I wish I had the link for you, but I ran across a Ronald Reagan video where he had just been in office for like 3 months. And he sat down, and of course he's called the great communicator for a reason. But one of the things that he did really effectively was to put out radio and television addresses to the nation, kind of like what Trump did with Twitter when he was on Twitter. But he did it, Reagan was a lot better speaker than Trump is. I'm sorry. It just, Trump's not that polished. Let's just put it that way in comparison. But Reagan did what Trump did, which was essentially talk directly to the American people. And there was one on YouTube. I wish I had the link. I'd love to be able to play it for you. But it was right after he came in office. It was like his first address or second address. And he essentially broke down exactly where inflation comes from. And he did it in such a way, it's like 20 minutes long. The video is 20 minutes long. And he did it in such a way, it is so eloquent and so perfect. And as far as like the explanation itself. But the point here is that America cannot sustain the current debt that we have running right now. And now this particular piece in the Epoch Times, the link is obviously in the description of the video, but this piece in the Epoch Times is a commentary piece, but this is true. So Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell made the statement, the path we're on is unsustainable and we have to get off that path sooner rather than later. So nearly everyone realizes the current state of U.S. government debt is completely unsustainable. Uncontrolled government spending and government debt create serious problems. Too much debt can limit the government's ability to respond to economic downturns, and it allows for less margin of error when applying measures to combat wonky fiscal problems. It also diverts funds from more important issues like infrastructure and defense spending, which both of those, by the way, are in the Constitution of the United States under Article 1, Section 8 as a purpose of federal government. But I digress. Inflation is also an issue. So the eroding investor confidence and credit rating downgrades, which, by the way, I talked about that last time, that they downgraded. We've been downgraded on our credit rating. America went from like 3 A's to now like AA plus in all sectors. This is just anyway. He continues here that on August 1st, Fitch Ratings, one of the major credit rating agencies, downgraded the U.S. credit rating from AAA to AA plus. So as a country, the United States should be focused on balancing the budget and spending less than it makes. But we are far away from that reality. And they are true. So interest costs, here's some numbers for you. And I gotta read these numbers to you. We got to get through this really quick. But interest costs have soared to $659 billion. That's just interest alone. $659 billion. It's up $184 billion. That's billion with a B, with a 39% increase from the previous year. You know that Fed increase that went from 2%, 3%, 5%, 5.5%, whatever it was? Yeah, that's where a lot of our interest payments are going for that. And it's almost double the amount from 2020. So one topic about reducing the national debt One is austerity and actually cutting discretionary spending, which is what the Republicans, and especially the Freedom Caucus Republicans, have been going after, is cutting discretionary spending. Another aspect, and this is something that, the left doesn't want to deal with. Another is raising the Social Security retirement age. No, nobody wants that to happen. I mean, seriously? So anyway, the other thing that they keep talking about is possibly opening up the borders and allowing a whole bunch of immigrants to come into America. Hello, we've already done that. It's going on right now. Freaking dumbasses. Anyway, the issue here, they say, is we've already let in millions and millions of illegal immigrants during the Biden administration. So this is really a moot point. But that's true. We're over 2 million. While I hope these new immigrants can start an entrepreneurial revolution, it seems unlikely. No kidding. New York State is having to pay and give away all of their food and all that other stuff away from Americans who should be getting that stuff as help. Okay. Then there is the possibility of restructuring our debt. Now, many people, of course, point to the 14th Amendment as a statement that the validity of the public debt of the United States shall not be questioned. And of course, that's widely debated because, gosh forbid, that's what happens when things are kind of unclear. But here's some numbers for you. So this is the House Budget Committee leader, Jason Smith, who is a Republican from Missouri, stated, Democrats in the last 2 years have increased spending more than 16% just to keep the lights on, not counting the more than 10 trillion, yes, that's T, 10 trillion of increase in news spending that they've spent outside of just the regular funding of the government process. That's why everyone is going to be having a blue Christmas, meaning inflation. That's why it's costing every American more just to buy the Christmas tree, put presents underneath the Christmas tree, put food on the table, and drive to their Christmas events. It's causing a lot of struggles for working class Americans. And then the piece continues, under Democrats, spending has increased by over $10 trillion, according to the House Budget Committee. Some of these increases include, now, here's where I want to take a break from the article for just a second. One of the things that is being debated by these morons who, again, like I said, I'm pretty tired of stupid Democrats. One of the things that these morons keep trying to tell me is that Trump is the cause of all of this, that Trump is the cause of all this inflation because Trump spent a lot of money and did, what he did. Well, I hate to tell them. Actually, no, I don't hate to tell them. The first thing is that Congress actually spends the money. But the other thing is that Trump only signed the laws into effect because he didn't have, they had a veto proof majority, so it was going to happen regardless. So why not just sign it over? And so here's some of the interest. Here's some of the money that's outside of that, that is part of that 10 trillion in spending. 2.5 trillion in interest payments on the growing federal debt. So that's just interest. That's like you trying to pay down your credit card and all you pay is like your bill is, $1,000, and out of that $900 of it is interest. That's kind of how this works. So 2.5 trillion in interest payments alone. The American Rescue Plan Act. That sounds like a Biden thing, doesn't it? 1.9 trillion. The Inflation Reduction Act. That is definitely a Biden thing because you listen to him freaking tout it on X all the time. That's $745 billion. 1+ trillion on all of Biden's executive actions. Those things like he forgave student loan debt and some of the other things that he's been doing by executive fiat. Well, that adds up. That's a $1 trillion as a part of that $10 trillion that we're in debt for. $625 billion in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Again, since the beginning, and this is in the piece, since the beginning of President Biden's administration, inflation has been at a 40-year high of 7%. Inflation has increased 14% overall, and wages have actually decreased 3.8%. Federal debt interest payments have reached over $103 billion with a B in October and November, which is an 87% increase from last year. So Democrats just keep spending. They just keep spending, and they don't seem to give a crap. Well, this is actually hurting everybody with the bottom line, and that's part of the reason why you see stuff like this. Breitbart, RCP, Biden's approval rating worse than Trump, Obama, and Bush at similar points in their presidencies. So he essentially has a lower approval rating than each of the last three presidents at similar points in their administrations, according to a Real Clear Politics polling data. As of November 22nd, Biden's average approval rating on the polling aggregation website registered at 40.6%. Conversely, an average of 55.5% of respondents in national polls that are counted toward the website's running average disapprove of Biden's performance as president. So therefore, he owns an actual net of negative 14.9 as his rating. This is why, this right here, I'm telling you, this right here is why the left is freaking out. And, voters are looking at their pocketbooks. They're looking at all of the things that they've got going on, and they're actually seeing what the American dream is, owning a home and everything else. And they're seeing this fading away, according to a new poll. So, this is a poll conducted by Wall Street Journal and the University of Chicago, which holds that about 36% of voters believe that the American dream is still achievable. 36%. We're at 1/3, just a little over 1/3. This is why Biden is failing at the polls. This is exactly why, because people are waking up and seeing this. Not only that, but you also have deep blue areas that are starting to show problems. For an example, the New York Post. New York is now the least free state, thanks to Democrat policies. And this is in accordance with a Cato Institute report. Now, the Cato Institute is a libertarian institute. They are not necessarily, left or right per se. They're more libertarian, but they rank the states usually, and policies impacting economic, social, and personal freedoms. And they even will, score things for slight gains like legalizing pot, reforming criminal justice. But apparently, according to them, they rank the Empire State dead last, 50th. Combined state and local taxes are crushing. Debt is down from years past, but it's still highest in the country at 26.1% of income, according to the report. And this is why you're seeing a huge exodus of people running off to Florida, which Florida, by the way, ranks as number 2 in freedom, which is right behind New Hampshire, and first in economic freedom. And now Miami apparently is looking like a credible threat to displace New York City as the nation's financial capital. So this is just indications as to what's going on. And oh, by the way, remember that defund the police thing? Well, here's another reason why people are getting pissed at Democrats. Homicides are rising in the nation's capital. So this is in D.C., but police are solving far fewer of the cases. Now, I can also tell you that, like the city of Seattle here in Washington, is also having issues with solving crimes because they are losing police left and right. Okay. As the number of homicides in Washington, D.C. are rising in the nation's capital, police solving them are far fewer, or the solving, happens, but far fewer by the case. So yeah, having an unsolved killing, of course, cuts deep for the families of the victims. No shit. Democrat policies, folks, I'm telling you, 2024, this is where things are going to change. Speaking of 2024, really quickly, just be very aware of something. China, I told you about this, maybe I told you about this, but apparently there's some sort of a respiratory illness. They called it pneumonia in one thing, but China blames weak immunity from coronavirus lockdowns for the respiratory outbreak in children. Do you remember that whole thing where a lot of people were talking about, hey, maybe just going out, forget the lockdown piece, the whole coronavirus lockdown piece, just live your life and, get this, just get this, immunity out of the way. And here we are, we have China is now saying that because of the fact that they locked people down for a very long time, that these kids are not, their immune system can't fight this thing off. So here is another piece about, and this is an indication that the whole lockdown thing for the COVID, horrible, just horrible, was the wrong strategy. Florida survived it without a problem. California did their lockdowns and had no different in the, in their death rates and sickness rates and stuff like that than Florida. Two equally sized states as far as their populations are concerned. So yeah, I mean, this is just crazy. This is just crazy. Anyway. All right. Well, this is my final Whiskey Musings thought, I believe. Let me see. Yes, this is my final Whiskey Musings thought. So do me a favor. If you are brand new to the stream and you like what I do in the broadcast, then do me a favor and go over to Rumble, sign up for an account. It's free. And find the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel and follow it. Hit that green button to follow. I broadcast Wednesday and Saturday nights. Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Saturday is 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can check out all of my videos, of course, on either Rumble or, well, not all of them show up on YouTube because YouTube has removed some of my content for whatever purpose. But anyway, have a great rest of your weekend tomorrow, and we'll see you Wednesday right here on the Whiskey Musings Broadcast channel. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings Broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.